My parents left my 5-year-old son alone for 3 days so they could go on a luxury cruise. He broke his arm trying to climb for cereal, and when I exposed them in court, their entire social life and reputation unraveled. They lied, they vanished from every family group chat. I'm suing for custody and property control. They underestimated what I'd do to protect Finn. My life as a divorced dad with a full-time job was barely holding together when the 10-day out-of-town training hit. With no sitter, I begged my parents to watch Finn. They said yes, almost too quickly. I left his favorite dinosaur, hoping it'd comfort him. Frank, my veteran neighbor, warned me once they weren't good parents, Ethan. I ignored it. 10 minutes into my flight, the pit in my stomach told me he was right. 2 days in, my calls went to voicemail. My mother texted vague updates. He's fine, we're busy. I brushed it off, trying to focus, but when I FaceTimed, Finn never appeared. My dad snapped, he's asleep, and ended the call. Something felt off. I told Diane, a KSBS contact I knew from a past case. She said, document everything. That night, I dreamed of Finn crying, clutching his dinosaur, lost in a house I thought was safe. While I presented at training, my phone buzzed. Frank had called KSBS. He'd heard crying next door, hours of it. My parents were gone. Diane picked it up fast, sent someone over. Finn was alone, arms swollen, bruises forming. His dinosaur was shoved behind a couch, stained. My dad claimed he just stepped out, but the timestamp said 3 days. KSBS took photos. My stomach dropped. This was beyond negligence, it was betrayal. I flew back immediately. At the hospital, Finn wouldn't let go of me. The doctor said, his injuries suggest prolonged neglect. I broke. My dad tried to blame a neighbor mix-up, and my mom acted confused. Carol, my aunt whispered, they lied before about you two. I remembered being locked outside for hours as a kid. The flashback hit like a train. I promised Finn never again. I called Sarah, my attorney. Sarah gathered records, bank transfers, forged notes, fake emergencies. My parents had stolen over $20,000 meant for Finn's care. They'd hosted a poker night while he lay upstairs alone. Diane gasped, this is criminal. Finn's dinosaur was the key left behind, forgotten like him. The judge reviewed it all, but then Mark, a supposed friend of theirs, vouched for them. It was a misunderstanding. He said, that nearly sank our case. The twist came during deposition. My parents claimed I abandoned Finn and asked them last minute. But Frank had text timestamps and video of me loading Finn's bag a week prior. He stood up in court, voice shaking. They did this. Their lie collapsed. Mark backed off. The dinosaur reappeared, this time in Finn's arms at court. The judge said, emergency custody granted. I felt the tide turn. They'd underestimated everyone. I filed for full custody, financial fraud, and negligence. Dan escalated it. Carol testified, revealing past abuses. Their reputation imploded, ostracized from church, clubs, friends. I stood in court, Finn by my side holding that dinosaur. My voice didn't shake. The judge ruled in our favor. It wasn't just justice, it was closure. I told Finn, we're free now. He smiled. For the first time in weeks, they lost their home, car, and social circles. Their GoFundMe was banned for fraud. I bought their house at auction, renamed it Finn's Haven. Frank visits often. Carol bakes for us weekly. The dinosaur sits on our new mantle. No more silence, no more doubt, just Finn and me rebuilding. My parents call sometimes. I don't answer. We've earned this peace and no one will take it again.